I've come to Canada's high Arctic as an embedded photographer on a sovereignty patrol. Melting seaways are yielding precious resources like oil and diamonds, making ownership of the Arctic a growing concern. So for the next 3 weeks, I'll be embedded with Canada's Arctic Rangers on a 2,000-kilometer trek along the northwest coast of Ellesmere Island. The land is so hostile that even the Inuit don't go there.
So no one in Canada or around the world that we know did from Mould Bay up to Otter. Okay, guys? Patrol number 1 and patrol number 2.
This is our land, there's no doubt about it. We have to occupy the ground and show that this part of the land belongs to Canada. If you do not patrol by land, it's difficult to claim it is yours. It's going to be quite challenging in the future because, as you know, the Northwest Passage is going to be available to people. The North has a lot to offer, so we have to protect the North and we have to be there at all the times.
On the 24th, tomorrow morning at 7:30, I want people by the machine. At 8 o'clock, we'll leave.
Three patrols are heading out to different parts of Ellesmere Island. Our team consists of 8 rangers. Other than myself, the major, and a historian named Doug, most of our team are Inuit, led by an elder named Roger. I've been told the Inuit rely heavily on intuition, so after one of them tells me I'm nothing but bear bait on this trip, I'm starting to feel a little apprehensive.
When I leave this morning, there's one thing I want you to remind you: safety, safety, safety. We're all gonna leave together and we're all gonna come back.
Let's go, guys!
This land is your land, this land is my land. From Mona Vista to the Vancouver Island, from the Arctic Circle to the Great Lake waters, this land was made for you and me.
We were only 3 hours into the trip, and already we were stuck in a rocky hell called Devil's Canyon.
We saw that they were in a sort of a canyon. It looked like it was a few hundred feet deep, kind of rocky at the bottom. And we didn't actually think that they were in there until we saw their tracks going in. And there they were, all sort of bunched up at the mouth of it. You know, they just looked like little ants at the bottom of this great big chasm.
Eight Cometics and a snowmobile had to be rebuilt. What we'd do in a day would have taken a month or more with no aerial support. Supplies had to be dropped off by boats months before and after their arrival here, if the ships could even get through.
20 minutes! Leave in 20 minutes! How high you want? We are losing time right now. It's we're 1 day behind. We're gonna catch up. We're gonna try to push today. It's too bad, but it's part of the game.
Since 1948, the Rangers have been involved in the sovereignty patrols in the north. They are the eyes and the ears of the armed forces, and without them we cannot do it. We can travel with GPS and map, but when you reach a patch of ice, all difficult, you need a person who can read that ice and tell you where to go.
En route to Grise Fjord, we traveled on Jones Sound. Large frozen icebergs sitting motionless on a frozen sea. When traveling on the sea, drinking water is a problem. Everything is frozen salt water. But the dark blue ice at the top had most of the salt water leached out, and that's what we gathered for drinking water.
Pushing that stuff. But as soon as you get out of here,
Major Sergeant Webb, how you doing?
quarter 8.
Hello?
New generation today, I don't think they can survive in my young days. I used to live in the igloos all the time, and I don't think they could do that anymore. New generation is new technology is coming out, and they don't want to do anything.
The next morning, Patrol 3 split off towards the east coast of Ellesmere to patrol Alexandra Fjord. An aerial surveillance a month earlier spotted tracks, and they weren't sure if those tracks were from Grise Fjord or Greenland. Patrol's 3 mission was to find out. Grise Fjord is the most northern community in Canada. The Inuit were relocated here in the 1950s, in the days of the Cold War. 168 people still live here. One of them is Ludi, a stone artist who exhibits internationally.
Everybody started to come up north now. Like 10, 15 years ago, there was hardly anybody. Starting with Rangers and all the Canadian armies, they're going to take over the whole north. It's changing fast. I lived for short years and I can tell it's changed a lot. Yeah, and all the glaciers, they moved back so far. Like if you look at the mountain from the distance, you can see where the glacier was about 10 years ago. It gets to be dangerous for the hunters. And you get into very thin ice without knowing it. Because the ocean it's getting warmer and it's melting the ice so much faster than it used to.
Now, this morning, patrol number 1 and patrol number 2 will leave at 9 o'clock, and we'll carry on for the target today.
We're going to be following the footsteps of Otto Sverdrup to 1901, when he went up to the northwest corner of Ellesmere Island and called it Land's Lock, or Land's End. And then the day after tomorrow, we'll be heading northwest along the coast, the northern coast of Ellesmere, and we'll be retracing the route that Perry did in 1906, and to actually go to that same country where only a handful of people have ever gone. I mean, this is probably as remote as a lot of the places in the Antarctic that's northern coast of Ellesmere as far as how much it's ever been traveled.
As we began to retrace the steps of the last great explorers, the weather turned ugly. We spent 7 days in a whiteout. We tried to wait it out in the tents for 2 days, but if the mission was going to be a success, then we had to start traveling in the storm. The Inuit say they never travel in this kind of weather. So all I could think was, why the heck were we?
Okay, Echo 16. Foxtrot 4.
Everyone is tense. According to the GPS, we are camped 10 meters from the edge where the Ailes ice shelf broke off in 2004. We have no idea how steep the drop is.
We found out today that we're running low on it pretty quick.
Ready to copy? Okay. Great, we'll go to the weather. We've been with the soup since the last 3 or 4 days now. Yeah. But we don't see fuck all on the ground because the snow and everything, huh? So it's hard. We move at 18 kilometers per hour today. And we almost killed people, so we have to stop.
The trip is getting harder now. The energy's not as good. The terrain is harder, the weather's harder, the wind is brutal. And in the morning, we have to dig ourselves out to ensure we don't suffocate in our tents. After 7 days, the storm finally lets up, and we set out for Ward Hunt Island. This is the jumping off point for the North Pole, and the government wants explorers to know this land belongs to Canada. The small gesture of raising a flag becomes a patriotic moment for the team, and I find myself humming a Joni Mitchell tune.
I drew a map of Canada, oh Canada, with your face sketched on it.
In the warming hut, we find a journal from those who have come before us in search of the pole. Some never made it. Their entries a final testament to the harsh history of this land. Our final prize lay further ahead, inscribed in a stone cairn made in 1906 by Robert Perry, the first known person to make it to the North Pole.
Perry made it. The south faces to the SS Roosevelt, where his ship was, on Floberg Beach. The north faces to the North Pole, 400 miles that way. Oh, and there's the ski. This is one of the...
1920. My station at Ponds Bay. Is at your disposal for any hospitality?
Kind of funny, eh? Yeah.
Hey, Doug.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you figure out this? 1920.
Wow. Hansen left the cashier for Roald Amundsen in 1920, because the Mundsens was supposed to drift across the Arctic Basin with the Maud, but he didn't. And so the cache remained here until Hattersley Smith found it in 1953.
Write up something for here.
Oh.
This is the photos of 1907 from Perry Expedition. That's the point that we saw yesterday. We are camping just a bit down of it, 200 meters about. And Dianne wrote what I was talking about, and all the members signed. And then we'll put that in the bowls right here. And the good thing about it is 1920 in the back of it. So we'll all go with the patrol after pack up, and we'll leave that in the ammo box.
I awake the final morning to the sound of something scraping across the ice. Roger goes to investigate and says he saw a dark figure that disappeared into the distance. He tells me he thinks it is a bad spirit. Whatever it was, it turns out to be a bad omen. We travel all day and night from Cape Columbia straight into a hurricane.
You can see there's nobody around. We're in the shack right now. Total whiteout. 12 miles to alert. Empty toboggans. Everybody's spread out all over the place.
The North shapes and morphs itself. Every day the world looks different. It's still creating itself out of the chaos. It will determine our fate.